Namaste. Happy Friday. I'm coming to you with something juicy today. I'm talking about perfectionism. And I'm talking about this because it's near and dear to my heart. It's something that I am very familiar with. I'm live right now on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. Hi, Instagram. Hi, Facebook. I love going live at the same time. So, if you're joining me today, I'd love to begin by just taking a nice deep breath together. Can we bring our hands to our hearts and just take a nice deep breath? Beautiful. I began this morning with yoga, and I love when I start my day with yoga because it reminds me to just come back into my body, to be present in the present moment, and just spend time being versus doing. So this week I've had this push and pull with the energy of being versus doing, being versus doing. In fact, even last night when I was thinking about planning this live stream and what I was going to say and what I was going to do, I had to remind myself, no, stop planning it, Suki. Stop expecting all this stuff in your mind. Literally stop doing. And when you tell yourself to stop doing and shift into being, you are literally going from one side of your brain to the other side of your brain, right? Because the doer is in stark contrast to the beer. And sometimes, they look at each other with judgment. So I'm talking about perfectionism today because perfectionism is something that is generational. It is passed down our generational line. It's toxic, it's negative. It is not in connection with spirit. It is in connection with ego. And I'm in the process of writing this book called The Creative Goddess Code. And in the book, I do an entire chapter where I dedicate to the perfectionist. And I want to share with you this perfectionism, some of the perfectionism stuff that I've written about for the Creative Goddess Code. So these are a couple of truths about perfectionism. And if you're watching live right now, give me a shout out. Say, hey, I'm watching live. I'm watching live on Facebook. I'm watching live on Instagram. So here are 5 truths about perfectionism. And the truth is, first of all, that you can't be a queen and a perfectionist. Some people think of perfectionism as a badge of honor. And I know, because I was one of those people for many, many years, to think that being a perfectionist was enhancing to my life, right? That the more that I could be perfect, then the more everybody would love me, the more that I would be accepted, the more that I'd be successful in business, the more that I'd, reach my goals and dreams. But the truth is, you cannot be a queen and a perfectionist. The queen doesn't embrace perfectionism. The queen embraces her flaws, recognizes her flaws as beautiful stories and enhancements to her full being, right? She doesn't look at these cracks and say, "Oh, that's a crack. That's a flaw. That's something that I have to improve." That's the hardest thing for me, that last part, something that you have to improve. What if you didn't have to improve them? What if it was about just simply being? Being. And that means to be with the good, the bad, the ugly, the dark, the shadow, just being. That's what I've been brewing on this week, guys. So here are the 5 truths about perfectionism that I've written in my book, The Creative Goddess Code. The first truth is, perfection is a curse, not a blessing. So that's a mindset shift that we have to shift through, right? Because if some of us have this badge of honor thing, like I'm perfect, so therefore that's my badge of honor, we have to unravel it. And it's such an unravelly thing, right? That you have to unravel from yourself that, actually, this is not a positive thing, right? This is something that is hindering to me. Truth number 2, perfection blocks creativity. Perfection blocks creativity. And the more that we get into the perfect and the more that we get into the mind versus the heart and the body, the more that the mind wants to try and trick you into what's good, what's bad, it's not good enough, it's not best enough, it's not perfected enough, right? And then that's going to stop you from being in your creative zone. Your creative zone asks you to rest. It asks you to be. It asks you to take yourself exactly where you are. Like this moment in your life, this moment right now in your life is exactly where you need to be. There is no other place that you're supposed to be except for right here in this moment. And everything that you've been through in your life has led you here to this moment. So perfectionism just, it blocks you from your creativity. That's number 2. Number 3 is perfectionism is toxic. It seeps into everything, right? It blocks you from moving forward in so many areas of your life because things have to be perfect, or you move into the space of enoughness. And enoughness is very hard to climb our way out of, because as long as we put an enough cap on it, then we put an expectation for ourselves. And when you put an expectation for yourself, you're always going to be trying to reach for that expectation. And that's when I call it the moving mountain, right? You get to the top of the mountain, you cleared it, got to scale to the next, and the next, and the next. Nothing is ever good enough. It just keeps getting higher and higher and higher and out of reach. Nothing becomes good enough, right? Perfection is linked to external validation, identity, and ego. This is something that once again I've been working on myself. And as I work on myself, I feel like I'm sent as a messenger. I'm here to help other people move through this as well. And when we think about identity, where did your identity come from? How was it formed? That you validate to what society expects of you, what other people expect of you, what the world expects of you, what your partner expects of you, what your friends expect of you. As long as you're always looking for that validation from something outside of yourself versus something inside of yourself, that's when the perfectionist really lays in. And the hereditary part, which is the number 5, that it's passed down from generation to generation. I want to read this to you from my book. It says the curse of perfectionism is based on a generational pattern. The perfect father passes it down to the perfect son. The perfect mother passes it down to the perfect daughter. So we can never live up to our parents' expectations, but they could never live up to their parents' expectations. And so we go down the line of this perfectionism, this deep, deep generational wound, right? And there's this need for healing. Creativity and expression are the tools for your healing. Creativity and expression are the tools for breaking the generational patterns of focusing on ego and identity and perfectionism and hustle, all this kind of stuff. This is how we break it. This is how we break it. So I want to share with you today 3 little tips that I've used to break the perfectionism. Now, I'm not perfect. I am not perfect, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know how to release all perfectionism and I'm never going to be in the perfectionist mode again. No. Far from that. This is a practice. This is something I have to continuously do with myself. And it's a shadow work that I continuously have to shift through and change through in my life, because that's the only way that I get to the space of creativity, expression, healing, right? Showing up in full spirit versus showing up, in ego. This is the work that I have to do. So I'm going to ask you right now, if you're watching right now, put in the comments below, how does perfectionism show up in your life? How does perfectionism show up in your life? I'm curious. And so if we can bring awareness to the spaces where we feel that we have to be perfect. Who do we have to be perfect for? Do you have to be perfect for your children? Do you have to be perfect for your job? Do you have to be perfect for your mom? Do you have to be perfect for your partner? Where does perfectionism show up in your life? If you could put that in the comments below and just bring awareness to it. So that's like my number one tip. It's just to be aware of the spaces that it shows up in my life. Oh, it shows up here. It shows up. My own example here. My creativity becomes blocked when I step into the perfectionist when it comes to my writing, when it comes to my book. And this actually, I can say my book, but it's also just all writing. Even if I'm putting out an email, if I'm putting out a blog, if I'm putting out a social media post, right? I can get blocked around that space of, is it good enough for the people who are reading it? Is it good enough for what I'm trying to say? Is it good enough for, right? And then I go down that rabbit hole of it's not good enough, I should just delete it. I'm not getting any comments or replies to this email, or I'm not getting enough likes on this reel. I should just delete it. It's not good enough. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. This is where we float into the topic of imposter syndrome too. And I just want to share very slightly on imposter syndrome, because I could go on a whole live on imposter syndrome. But when we float into imposter syndrome too, it's that feeling of like, it starts with the feeling of I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough, or I can't do enough, or whatever it is. And then it goes from there deeper into the feeling of who am I to? You ever say that to yourself with the imposter syndrome? Who am I to think that I could sell a program like this? Who am I to think I could charge these prices? Who am I to... This is not the way that a queen thinks. A queen will never think this way. But this is the ugly undercurrent of the perfectionist kind of bubbling up to the surface, right? Bubbling up to tell you you're not good enough, you can't do it, nobody cares what you have to say. That's a huge one that I work through with myself and my clients. Nobody cares what you have to say. Nobody cares what you're saying. And this is just not true, and spirit does not speak to you like that. Spirit speaks to you with kindness and lovingness and encouragement, right? And so there's this vast difference between perfectionism floating into the toxic and spirit floating into the energy of love. When you realign yourself with the energy of love, when you come back to your soul, when you come back to your heart, when you come back to your truth, like my coach always says, calibrate to the truth, Suki. What's the truth? Calibrate back to the truth. And I have to go, oh, I have to untangle myself from all these knots that I've created in the knot of perfectionism. And I come back to myself, right? I'm going to read you another part from the book. This is a prayer. This is my number 2 step to release yourself from the tanglement of perfectionism, right? And this was channeled to me by the goddesses. I work with various goddesses. One of my goddesses is Goddess Saraswati. She's the Hindu goddess of the creative arts. And she came through to me with this prayer. I'm going to read you this prayer right now. And if you want to come into a prayer space, you can put your hands on your heart, or you can come to heart center like this, or you can simply close your eyes and just, bring an acknowledgement to this. It says, Divine Goddess, may we let go of perfection and embrace acceptance. May you bless my family lineage. Remove the toxic seed of perfection. May you awaken within me now a feeling of fullness, completion, and gratitude, that I may simply know I am exactly where I need to be. I am exactly who I need to be. I am always enough. I always have enough. And to be perfect is simply to be me. Aho, and so it is. To be perfect is simply to be you. To be perfect is simply to be you, right? It's not to be anyone else or anything else. It's not to compete or compare yourself. It's not to live up to expectations, whatever expectations those might be, realistic or unrealistic. Like, for example, you might think that you set yourself realistic expectations, and the truth is you're setting yourself really unrealistic expectations. And the thing about expectations are they're always something external. You know, it's not inside of yourself, an expectation. It's not inside. It doesn't come from your heart. It comes from your head. And this leads me to the last part of this chat here that I really want to stress and bring home to you today. Last night, I was in the middle of like my dreams. And this is kind of the way my brain works. As I was in the dream, I started to see this exact live stream that I'm doing with you right now. So, saw myself. I probably was like up in the corner of my room, and I saw myself doing the live stream. And I suddenly started talking about clouds. And I said, Suki, you're not even supposed to talk about clouds on this live stream. You're supposed to be talking about perfectionism. You're supposed to be talking about, releasing the hustle mentality, stepping into your queendom. What does clouds have to do with it? That's when I realized. And all of the channeled information came through. It's easy for the perfectionist to live in the clouds because that's where expectations live, out here, right? And it is like a cloud because every time you try and get to that expectation, it moves further and further and further away from you. You can't grab a cloud. You can't bring it down to earth, right? It doesn't create form. That's why perfectionism and creativity cannot coexist. The clouds and the earth, they can somewhat coexist, but you can't bring a cloud down to earth and try and make something out of it like clay. It won't work, right? It doesn't work. So the perfectionism and the fact that we're in the clouds is like this thing that I work through with so many of my clients. I call it the floating triangle. That's when your top chakras are very like connected to the higher sources, right? It's very easy for you to channel. It's very easy for you to come up with creative ideas. You always come up with another idea. You're always, meditating. You're always out in the clouds, right? But your lower chakras, this is your sacral, your root, your solar plexus, the stuff that really grounds you and connects you into this earth, these are lacking. So the perfectionist wants you to go all the way up, and you can go up into the clouds, and you can get and gather so much amazing information, and you can swim with spirit, which is what I do all the time. But at some point you have to remind yourself, and this is what a queen does. She reminds herself, uh-oh, I'm here on earth. I gotta do this here. There are things that I need to create. There are things that I need to birth into this world, and they don't include me flailing around in the clouds right now. I have to bring it down here. I have to physically create it with my hands, right? This is what I get to birth. And so this is the key to the creative or creatrix or creative goddess energy that you want to step into, is to say, how can I take it from the clouds? How can I bring it into my body? Play with it inside my body. Feel it inside my heart. Connect with it inside my womb space or sacral space if you're a man, right? And then birth it and then bring it out into the physical atmosphere. Oh, I'm seeing some familiar faces on Instagram. Nice to see you guys. So the perfectionist is the energy that's like up in the clouds, versus the creatrix. That's the person that's in the mud, in the dirt, in the earth, physically creating it, taking all of those messages from on high and doing something physical with it, right? That's the power of it. How can we release this perfectionism more? There's one more step that I have here. Right. I'm just pulling it up online. Ah, yes, the wild. Okay. So I pulled this card yesterday for myself, and I feel like I just really, really love it. It's called the Temple of the Rose. I'll show you right here on Instagram, and I'll show you on Facebook too. It's called the Temple of the Rose. And also, I picked this one together, right? The Wild Rose. The Wild Rose. Start thinking about how your body is your temple. Your body is your temple, it's your vehicle. You have been given this body to do exactly what you need to do in this life. No other body would do. You can't have a body like Cindy Crawford. You can't have a body like Naomi Campbell. You're in your body right now for a reason, for a purpose. How can you take that? How can you use the vehicle that you're in and really reconnect with it in a wild and untamed way? And this is what I talk about the last part of the perfectionism and releasing the perfectionism is the get wild. How do you embrace your inner wild child? That's the part of you that had no perfection. That's the part of you that got to do whatever the heck she or he wanted to do when you were little, right? There was a time when you were exploratory about your body, about the world. Everything was wild and new. There were no restrictions and limitations. And so you got to really do, and being a mom is so amazing because I get to see this with my kids all the time. I get to just like watch them be in their wild, and it inspires me to be in my wild, right? So it says, embrace your inner wild child. What is something you can do that would be without borders, limitations, restrictions, or rules? Sometimes we need to live in our wild energy. We can howl at the moon or be naked or throw our hands onto the earth and dig them into the soil, right? Remember when you were a kid and you used to play in the sandbox and you used to make like sand patties or sand cakes, and like try and eat them? I think my cousins literally ate sand when we were little. I used to watch them and be like, you're eating sand. I don't know what's wrong with you, but like, do you remember what you used to do in the sandbox? That was a space of you living without rules and limitations, and or like the risk of like what's in the sandbox, or maybe there's some dead worms in there. You shouldn't put your hands in there. I even notice with my children how I'll jump into adult mode. Oh, you don't want to be stomping in the mud. You don't know what's in there, and you're gonna make a mess. And then sometimes I have to stop myself and go, don't they like making a mess? Isn't that the purpose of being a wild child? How could you today embrace your inner wild child? What is something that you could do today that would involve you letting go of your limits, your restrictions, your judgments, and your perfectionism, right? One of the things I often do is dancing in the rain. I love dancing in the rain. I love to feel the rain kind of soak through my hair and my skin and my clothes and my shoes. I love to just like feel that wetness and just really let myself go and let everything kind of wash off of me that needs to just wash off of me, and jump up and down. I'm always giggling. I'm always laughing when I'm dancing in the rain. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it really helps me to release that perfectionism when I can just find myself dancing in the rain. Dancing in general just allows me right back into my body. It was only this year that I discovered that originally goddess worship was the biggest thing all over the world, right? Before we started worshiping male deities, you can look back in history, you can look back at cultures, ancient times, and you see that what we were worshiping was the goddess. We were worshiping the women. We were worshiping the womb space. We were worshiping the creation of birthing, right? Of creativity itself. And so dancing was the primary form of goddess worship. In order to connect with the goddess, we would dance. We would dance around fires. We would beat on drums, right? We would vocalize. We would sing. We would chant. And this is the way that we would connect with the goddess. And this is how you can connect with the goddess within yourself. You know, we all have that goddess within us. We all have that divine feminine energy and creativity within us that sparks from that goddess energy. So dance in the rain, right? Be yourself. Listen to your inner wild child. Do the perfection prayer that I did today. Listen to it, write it down, say it over and over again. You know, remind yourself that expectations are clouds and you can't grab clouds. You can't mold clouds into physical form, right? And at the end of the day, remind yourself again that perfectionism has to do with ego. And you want to come back to source. You want to come back to spirit. You want to come back to that love within yourself. That's the key. This love right here within your heart. These emotions that flow through your veins, that flow through your body. That's you being you. There is nowhere else that you have to be. There is nothing else that you have to do. You simply get to just be. Just be. Blessings, blessings, blessings. I'm so grateful for everyone that's tuned in today. If this resonates for you, if you like this, if you could share it with your friends or family, or comment below and tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from you. I have a program starting on Tuesday, October 11th. It's called Queen of My Soul, and it involves 3 days with me. 3 magical transformational days where I'm helping you speak like a queen, I'm helping you create like a queen, and I'm helping you lead like a queen. We're talking about 3 different chakras here: your throat chakra, your sacral chakra, and your, well, I guess it's 4, your root and your third eye chakra. Like the root and the third eye together. I love when we can merge root and third eye, clouds and earth, right? Go up and down, so that you can be that balanced and really show up in that space of leadership that you know that you're meant to do. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, Facebook, for inviting or being in this space with me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I will put the link in the comments if you'd like to join, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.